Welcome to the Ausländer. Welcome to a new episode of the Ausländer. To this episode, I have a very special guest that actually we don't know each other in person, but context of context. So through Katrin, which was the first episode of this season, I got to meet Kristin. Kristin is from Germany, Oberhusel, same town as Katrin, but you lived in quite some countries right now, living back to Germany as far as I understood in Munich. But you lived in New Zealand, Peru, Ireland, Argentina, China, Netherlands. I needed the PDF here just to check all the list. I don't know if that's the correct order. Hi, Kristin. Happy to have you here.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, that's actually correct. So it's been 6 countries for now where I lived, and currently I'm back in Germany. Currently living in Munich, but I don't have any concrete plans at the moment. But also, as we're recording the podcast today, I've started thinking about where to move next, maybe. But no concrete plans until now.
Okay, like a person who never stops. Like, I mean, you already done it 6 times, so one more will not will not kill you. That's for sure. How did it happen? Like, I mean, we will go back to the fact that you did like a kind of circle from Germany to Germany, which is kind of something that through the podcast we've seen regularly. People who leave and then they do this tour and then they end going back home because of whatever reason. How it happened, like New Zealand as a first point to go, like it was studies related, or when did you start this journey, like which age and whatever?
Sure. So basically I would say in my family where I grew up, my parents, they love to travel, so they're already like used to travel a lot with me and my younger sister. And this is basically how I started to, love traveling, experiencing new countries. And then when I was in high school, through my parents, I also got to know the option that when you're like a teenager, you can go to a high school in a different country. And that was basically then also, when I heard it for the first time, this idea was like, oh, wow, I definitely want to do this. And then in the beginning, I thought maybe I want to go to the United States. And because, I kind of liked the idea of moving there. But then I found out that you basically cannot choose the like concrete like city or location where you can move. And then I was like, oh, okay, maybe that's too much of a surprise for the first time being abroad, like not knowing any, like not the location at all where I'm gonna move to. And then that was basically one reason why I thought, maybe New Zealand would be cool. And then actually the second reason was because at that time, you can also ask Katrin later, I was a huge fan of The Lord of the Rings. And they filmed the movies in New Zealand, right?
Makes sense. I mean, why not? But I think like I talk with other people a couple of times in Germany. I only know one person who actually did that back in Catalonia or in Spain, like from my friends. Like, I think it's much more common in Germany than in other countries to do this. Like, you're still a teenager, so you are not even 18 or you are like, I don't know, at what age did you go? Like 16, like this, like before the Abitur, I suppose, like the...
Exactly, yeah. I was 16 when I... Yeah.
Okay. So eventually, like, it's always something that surprised me quite a lot, because you are like 16 years old, and a lot of the people who does that tend to go to United States. It's like one of the destinations, the biggest ones. But at the end, you're 16 years old and so on top of going to United States that is far away, like you are not only considering that, but you say, okay, no, it's the United States, no, I go even farther away, even into the really, really, really end of the world, and I end in New Zealand. How is that for a teenager, like 16 years old? How was the experience of saying, okay, did you know how much time you will be there? You know that it was really, I don't know, a pain in the ass, or you were missing a lot of people, or how it was the experience?
So basically, how was it for me? In the beginning, I was just like super excited and also, of course, a bit nervous. But then I think what helped me is that I knew basically to which kind of high school I will attend. And I was kind of able to get prepared. You know, I was able, like, for example, to choose the different classes that I want to take. I had the chance to, at least before, get informed a bit about the host family where I will live with. So I had like a few, like touch points to get prepared in advance. And then also at the time when I went, it's like the typical time during your time at high school, as you said, before the Abitur, where quite a lot of people went abroad. So for example, I had one friend who actually went to Australia, and she basically left at the same time when I left to New Zealand. So we were also like chatting a lot about it, and so that also helped a lot.
So there was some kind of support over there. Like, I mean, one of the first things that you said is that you traveled a lot with family. And I think that's something that you don't even like, if you are never traveled too much with your family and you haven't went and enjoyed the part of traveling, even if it's just for tourism itself, I don't think you say, oh no, like with 16 years old, with the mentality of a teenager, I say, no, I go to New Zealand. If you don't have the experience of traveling around, that's the first thing. But also the support, I think it's important, like what you said, meeting the host family, having someone else who shares the same experience as you, etc., etc. I suppose, as far as you said, like your family was really happy that you take the decision, seeing that they were like this. School-wise, it is, because I heard from someone that then they went to the United States, and when they came back, they needed to repeat some kind of lectures and whatever. Was this the case with New Zealand also?
The thing was, I only went for 6 months in total. And basically, I decided to only spend 6 months there, because then I had the chance to directly continue with like the normal grade I was supposed to be in then. So I didn't have to repeat it. And but maybe one point that you mentioned that was definitely a major support factor was, of course, like my family, right? Because they could have said, I mean, at that time I wasn't even, like above age, like below 18. So they were basically responsible for me. So that was, of course, like a major support, like also like mindset wise, and that they weren't too afraid to say, okay, you're too young, you can maybe travel on your own once you're, not living with us anymore. But yeah, that was also a major factor, of course.
Definitely. I mean, you need their approval legally to do that. That's for sure.
Exactly.
So you need to pass that. How it was when you arrived, actually, like how was it? Was it as good as you were expecting? You were emotional about it? Like you had a strong feeling that you wanted to do it? Was it really like an experience that you would recommend to other people?
Definitely. Yeah. Because I think the main thing is really, I think New Zealand was the first time I was like doing a lot of things on my own, like traveling on my own, for example, like only if it were like day trips, for example, but I organized it myself. I went on the trip without knowing anyone. And there were a lot of other exchange students in New Zealand, like a few from Germany as well, but also a lot from other countries. And then there were a lot of, like offers, especially for these exchange students. And so I would say during the time in New Zealand, I got a lot more like independent. And I think that really made a difference. And also like, experiencing this time, like not seeing like your close friends and family for like a longer time, and learning like how to stay in contact, how, like, as I said, organizing things by yourself. And of course, as I said, I was living with a host family, and they were also super nice, but still it's not like your real family, right? You have to like get to know each other, and in the end, there's a lot of things that you're responsible on your own then during that time. And that was a major learning factor. So I would definitely recommend it.
I did a couple of internships like here and there, United Kingdom, Boston, whatever, but like shorter times, like mainly for learning English, also being a teenager, like 16, 17, 18 years old. And I really think like this, even if it's like 2 months or whatever, you really upgrade your maturity in that sense. Like you start being a little bit more, as you say, independent, like being a little bit more like, okay, yourself and defining, even if of course you will change 3,000 times after that, but at least you start defining yourself how you are a little bit more on how you handle certain situations. That until that point in your bubble of perfectness, family, whatever, like not everyone has this, of course, but the thing that you feel protected around, let's say family, friends, same context, the same thing, explodes. It literally explodes. And in your case, it's not exploding in, I don't know, I'm from Germany, I go to France. If something goes wrong, I grab a train and I go back home, or my parents come here or whatever. You are in New Zealand. So was there ever any kind of spike of fearness of saying, okay, I'm really far away? Like if something happens right now, did you ever have these thoughts at some point?
What comes to my mind directly is that I had one major knee injury. So I was driving my bike on one evening, and there was a lot of rain, and it had just stopped to rain. And then, on the very wet street, I was riding the bike, and I wanted to, like stop, and then the bike kind of moved, and also like my knee moved very weirdly. And so that's how my knee ended up injured. And that was like a moment when when you're injured, you want to be like, with your family or like friends, someone like taking care of you. And I think that was like a hard moment. Although, of course, there was like, and they took care of me. I think that's like a typical moment when you're like, okay, I don't even know, like, where's the good doctor here? Or how can I describe the type of injury in English?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
That's, of course, a lot more difficult. And I would say that was a moment. But I mean, New Zealand right now, it's already more than 10 years ago. So some details of course. Might have slipped out of my mind by now. But I think that was definitely...
but that still happens. Like if you get injured in some, I mean, if I get injured right now here in Greece, which happened more than one time, sometimes you are like, okay, like who do I call? Where do I go? Like who is the good, like, I don't know, to which specialist do I need to go? How do I communicate with this guy? I remember the last time that I had an injury in the leg. It ended up like it was me and the doctor and just like having this dummy conversation in English, trying to communicate. I forgot terminology. He didn't remember terminology, even speaking kind of good English, until a point that he asked me, oh, what language do you speak? And we ended the whole conversation in Italian because we both were speaking better in Italian than in English in Athens, which makes no sense. But at the same time, it's just like, okay, it's not terminology, it's not language that you use, neither professionally, if you're not a doctor or in the industry or whatever, neither it's rare that if you go on holidays and you have something, because normally if you don't stay for longer, you don't use this. I don't know how to say, I don't know, parts of my body in English, even if I speak English for I don't know, now 7 years without, as I would consider it my main language for a long time right now. Of course, you miss it. But yeah, saying that, maybe let's do a little bit of skipping that. Like New Zealand, it's a long time ago. It was 6 months. You then came back, I suppose, to Germany to do the abitur and to start studying, or?
Exactly. So when I returned from New Zealand, I had 2 more years in high school, then in Germany, and then I would say that's like another typical time, like after like finishing high school, right? Like you're like, oh my God, okay, nobody has this plan, and I'm totally free. So basically, I used the chance and went abroad again before starting to study at university. Yeah, to really take the time and like also like do something different, to be like also kind of sure what I want to do afterwards. And then that's how I ended up in Peru. Also, I would say one major reason was because I started studying Spanish in high school and I liked the language a lot. So yeah, that was one reason how I ended up spending some time in Peru.
I mean, better entering to Peru than in Argentina if you're studying like classic Spanish standard, I suppose. I think it's easier to understand Peruvian people than Argentinians if they speak really fast. You've lived in Argentina. When they speak fast, I don't understand them sometimes. So you went there. You had some plan, or you just decided, okay, where can I go in the world that they speak Spanish so I can improve Spanish? And I put the pin here and I say, Peru, it's the place.
I would say there were like a few reasons. First of all, basically, as I was explaining, I kind of grew up traveling a lot. So for me, it was always very exciting to travel somewhere that's outside of Europe. I mean, I like Europe a lot, but it's kind of, I've talked about it with also like my boyfriend and my friends a lot, but it's kind of, it excites me so much to like leave the continent. Yeah, I know it's like also like climate change wise. And so it's not like really recommended always, but it excites me a lot. So that was one reason why I wanted to go to South America. And then, of course, I found it super interesting, this cultural mix, like this, super interesting history in Peru with like the Incas and so on, then like the Spanish arriving there and so on, like, and at the same time also like the very high quality type of food that they have there, like the huge variety. And then last but not least, what you mentioned, Peru is a country for learning Spanish. It's quite easy, as they don't have like a very strong accent. So it's that we're like
neutral.
Exactly. Yeah. And as you were asking for the kind of plan, I started in a language school, like 4 weeks, like also like arrive in the country and like kind of, have like a type of daily structure and also be able to meet a few other people. And then for 2 months, and that was a super, exciting experience, I think. As I'm thinking about it, like kind of a once in a lifetime experience. I went to a super small village in the middle of the Andes in Peru, and I volunteered there in not in a high school, in an elementary school, in kindergarten, as like a teacher.
Nice.
And that was really cool experience.
It's really nice. Like the first month you stayed in Lima, then like
in Cusco, which is like the I would say like cultural center in Peru, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's really cool, actually. Like, it's good that you realized with 18, and I sometimes miss this from our culture, to take the time to try to really understand. Like, we really finished high school, and for us, this break of finishing something and going abroad. I suppose also socioeconomically, Spain, it's a little bit more fucked up, let's say like this, in the sense that not a lot of people can allow themselves to say, okay, I finish school and I don't go study, or I don't go working, or I don't try to push it as quickly as possible. But normally this happens for us once we finish university, not with 18. And I heard from a lot of German people who had the opportunity to say, okay, I finish every tour, I'm 18, I take like, I don't know, 6 months or 1 year or whatever to do this break thingy, maybe knowing a little bit the world, and then coming back with probably a better understanding of what you want to do. You were saying just like, okay, you went to an elementary school. Without doing that, maybe you cannot say yes or no, I want to be a teacher, like it's as basic as that. Like, were you having any, I mean, we haven't said it, but you're right now like a strategy manager, which is kind of business related at that point. Were you really related into that at the beginning, or you really did this internship in a school because you were going more to the educational path at that point of time?
Very good question. Actually, before going to Peru, I already knew that I don't want to become a teacher. However, during high school, I was also like on a voluntarily basis. I was supporting like some kids groups at the local church community in Germany where I was living, and that's basically also how the contact came up to Peru.
Okay.
Because like basically the local church community where I was volunteering in Germany, they had like a kind of contact person in Peru.
Oh, nice.
And that's how it came up. And I really enjoyed these different activities that we were organizing. And that was, I would say, basically more the connection, that I really enjoyed it as like part of my free time. But I kind of knew, okay, I can't imagine becoming a teacher afterwards. But still, it was a lot of fun spending time with the kids in Peru, because as I said, that was like also the thing that I enjoyed in Germany a lot. But good question. I basically, I kind of never thought about having like a job with like children. That's really really interesting. I never really thought about it. I would say it was more regarding my professional, I would say, studies or career. It was more like this international focus, like really, as you, I think, described it earlier, getting out of my bubble, understanding like the bigger context. I mean, I'm I would say lucky and privileged at the same time that I grew up in Germany. I mean, after all, that was not my decision. And I think that's why it's even more important to understand like how the reality for other people looks like, right? And I think that had an impact on my decision of what I would like to study.
And eventually, like going to other countries and working with kids, for example. So I've imagined, and I suppose that I did some voluntary work, and not I was a Boy Scout with kids, whatever, but not really work with kids a lot of time in my life. But it also gives you a different perspective, what you were saying. But not only like, okay, how is real life? It's never as easy as understanding a kid who is in that same environment and whatever, and they speak the truth. They just like, you see more transparent their reality through a kid than from amazing, like an adult. On top of that, I suppose for your Spanish at that point of time, that was a really great thing to do, because what a better way to try to force to speak and whatever, to try to speak to a kid that you clearly know that he will not understand you if you speak German or English, probably. So did you use that? I mean, did it really improve your language skills, for example, during that time?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, at the time when I was in Peru doing the volunteer work, there was also one other German girl. I mean, after all, Germans in general, I would say, like to travel. So I would say in the end, you meet them everywhere.
Yep.
So even in this tiny village in Peru, but still everything else had to be in Spanish because nobody was able to speak English or, I was in this small village where they would even sometimes speak the traditional Peruvian language, Quechua. So it had to be everything in Spanish, and of course that improved my Spanish skills a lot. Unfortunately, it's already a longer time ago, so I'm missing the practice a bit. But still, that was a great experience. And another thing that comes to my mind, which I enjoyed so much, or that I regularly enjoy when I'm abroad, is the connection of like not only language. So because I remember originally the plan was that I'm supposed to teach some English to the children because nobody was really good at English at the elementary school where I was supporting. And then they asked me, yeah, do you happen to know how to play the flute? And
really?
Yeah, and I used to play it earlier during elementary school as well. And during high school, I used to play saxophone, and it's quite similar.
Nice.
And then that's why it comes to my mind. So I enjoyed it a lot, understanding, okay, how music, for example, can connect you so much. Yeah, even not like knowing the language. And also another example which was also pretty cool, the other teachers of the elementary school, they were a bit older than me, but not too old, or the age difference was not too big. And we would all play volleyball because volleyball is like a really common sport in Peru as well.
Really?
And I used to play it as well. Yeah. I didn't know it before either. And yeah, that was such a nice experience for me, like understanding, okay, it can be the language, of course, that connects you after, but it can be different things also.
Definitely. I mean, there is much more language in common things that we do and hobbies that you might share with the people, and understanding each other by I don't know, playing music or doing other things, and understanding that you might like this person even though you really don't understand this person when they are talking. And that's the beauty also of non-verbal communication in that sense, no? How long did you stay in Peru? Like
in total also 6 months.
Okay. You're a 6-month regular person.
Most of the time I was abroad for like 6 months. I think the only time I was abroad for longer was in the Netherlands.
Oh, really? Which is the closest to Germany.
Yeah, I know that's a bit sad, unfortunately, but yeah.
Nice. So yeah, before we jump to the next country, probably, or explaining how it was going back, and then probably there is the studies in there. I don't know. We can check it out. We should just do a technical break quickly, and then we come back.
Sounds great.
So welcome back. We were just talking about the 6 months that you were spending in Peru just before starting university. I assume that you finished Abitur to go to university at some point. So you came back from South America with a greater experience, knowing more flute that you know from Germany, playing more instruments, probably playing more, speaking better Spanish. What happened? Like you decided then that you knew, or like it came the illumination while you were in Peru of what you wanted to do, or you came back to Germany and then spent some time in Germany and then decided, okay, now it's time to go to university. What is the transition there?
So basically, before going to Peru, I kind of already had the idea what I would like to study. And Peru basically confirmed my idea. So I think it was a recommendation. It was like a coincidence that like a friend of a friend was like studying at this university where I ended up in the end, in a really small town close to Stuttgart. At that point, I had never heard about it, honestly. The city is called Reutlingen. It's rather small, but they have a really cool university there. And also like the program, and that's why I applied there and joined this study program that I did in the end, because it was 50-50 German students and international students, and it was rather small. So I knew once I will start studying there that it will be very international. And that was like the major reason why I decided for this university, and also the study program International Business, because there was really like this focus on this intercultural exchange. And that's basically like the my studies during my bachelor's were like the reasons why I went then abroad again, because it was like mandatory included into the program.
Oh, cool.
And it was in English as well, everything. So it was really the idea of getting to know the different cultural backgrounds of the students of this program, and doing a lot of group works together. So it was a really nice, small and international community.
That's nice. That's really cool, actually. I mean, it's funny that you're coming from Oberusel, just next to Frankfurt. You go to study international business, not in Frankfurt, outside of Frankfurt, which is funny. Everyone comes to Frankfurt to study international business, and you are just living next to it and you go away from it. At the same time, the program, how you present the program, it sounds really, really interesting. Like you have context, you make contacts in the university. At the same time, they force you somehow, even though for you maybe it was not really needed because you already were like away, whatever, but not for studies. So is that how you ended in Ireland? How did, like, how much time you did, like 2 years of university and then go away, and or how it was?
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I ended up in Ireland, and it was I would say kind of an exciting time applying for a job in Ireland, because it was like my first internship. You know, I was like a really young student, like doing a few semesters, and I really had no work experience at all. And then I was like, okay, but no, I don't want to stay in Germany. But then finding like an internship, so I did an internship in the end in Ireland, but finding one outside of Germany without any type of like work record or work experience was super difficult. And I don't know how much time it took me like to find something. And then I was super lucky. I don't even remember how I found him, but he was like a recruiter who also studied at the university where I was studying.
Oh, nice.
So I think we kind of had this like one conversation or so. It was not so much. Yeah, not like a huge like type of application process, but just I think like 1 or 2 conversations. And then like he offered me this internship, and I was like, yeah, whatever it's going to be, I'm just going to take it. It's outside of Germany. That was my goal, and I'm going to take it. And then we had this, you know, I got this offer, but I never received the contract. And I was like starting to ask him, when is the contract arriving? So when are like the exact dates that I'm, you know, like gonna start working, and so on. And then like basically it was just like, I think 2 months or like even less before I was supposed to start in Ireland. And he like emailed me saying, sorry, there were like some organizational structural changes. We don't have this intern position anymore. And I was like, honestly, because of course, after he had given me the offer, I also stopped applying, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so then I was like, you know, like luckily, again, there was like this one discussion you asked, so what can I do in this type of a situation? and also discussing it with my friends, but also like nobody had like a lot of experience, right? Because everybody was supposed to do his first internship. And then I was like, writing down all the arguments again, and really got myself prepared to like have another like, like telephone call with him. And I explained him like everything that, like I'm like super motivated, and that I really want to do this internship abroad. And then luckily in the end, there was like another position available, and I ended up doing the internship there.
Okay.
But it was like, ups and downs, getting there. Yeah, exactly. But with a happy end.
I mean, at least you were German enough to be safe. Like, okay, I have this in confirmation, but asking for the contract, like Spanish style, you got the confirmation. The next day you're flying there without having a contract. So at least you had that. But it's funny, actually, like the whole program of studies, it's considering that you need to go abroad, but then you need to search for yourself. There is no like work, like the university, it's not providing anything for you, like, or really? Okay.
No, you really had to do it on your own. Of course, they gave you like some ideas and so on, but it was not like mandatory to do the internship abroad. You had to do like a mandatory exchange semester, but for like the internship, you could choose whether you would like to stay in Germany or like move abroad. But for me, it was like, okay, if they have the opportunity, right? Because during your studies, I think it's super easy to like through exchange semester, Erasmus, and so on, spend some time abroad, right? So I really wanted to take that opportunity.
Definitely. I mean, this is one of the things that I'm always fucking regretting at the end. It's that I never did Erasmus. I never did exchange while studying. And it's due mainly because I started working on having internships in Barcelona on the third year, like by the end of second year of university, of 4 years career. Therefore, I was kind of binded to wherever, and they were extending my contracts every time. So I suppose I put the value into having whatever, which it happened at the end, because when I finished university, they changed the contract from internship to being an employee directly without any time in between. But at the same time, and everyone that I talk, they went abroad in Erasmus, they enjoyed, and they really liked our Erasmus. It doesn't need to be Erasmus program, but whatever, they did an exchange in the life experience. It's I regret not have done that. I mean, I've done it afterwards, let's say like this, in a professional environment, but I really regret not having done that. So you find the internship, second one, not the first one. Dublin based, or where in Ireland?
Yeah, exactly, in Dublin.
Cool. Nice. I suppose already related, like an internship relating in business international relations, and like
it was
linked
like
to the studies, I mean.
Exactly. Yeah. It was like in an international like tech company, right? I mean, Dublin is like a city where all the major tech companies have a huge office. So I was doing an internship in one of the tech companies there.
Nice. Always putting their taxes into Ireland. Curious. Nice. So you just, at the end, that's the first experience that is a little bit different, because until that point you went education or steps in between education. Ireland was maybe the first time that you went going abroad for professional business related topics. Did that experience change to a lot? Depending, I mean, come on, it's Dublin, there is a lot of beer, but besides that, I mean, you come from Germany, there is a lot of beer. Besides that, there was a real difference between Ireland and the previous experience. Like, you felt like you were going there to work, or it was also like half studies? You were doing only the internship, or you were combining studies and internship?
I only did the internship.
Okay.
And that's a really good question. I actually never thought about it, but now that you're asking me, I think it was like the first time I really had to get organized in the country itself. You know, like before I was like being like a volunteer or like living with a, you know, like going to a high school abroad. Yeah, I really had to get organized, meaning I had like to get a social security number. So you really had to like dive deeper into like, you know, what are like the rules and regulations of the country. Exactly, the bureaucratics. And luckily that was quite easy in Ireland, I guess, due to the fact that there are a lot of international people working there. But also like it was for me the first time I really had to like look for my own place to live in a foreign country. And that was also quite an experience, I would say, because, you know, I was used to like, you know, like the student type of prices, and then Dublin, you know, is like this big city with like, due to the big companies there having like quite high rental prices. So that was like a totally new experience for me, also like due to the fact that it was like the first time that I would like earn money. I mean, that's not common for an internship to like earn money there, but yeah, being like organizing everything for myself and being independent was like on a whole different level, right? And also having like this, of course, this like regular schedule, right? For Monday till Friday, working and not like being, you know, like more flexible. And I would say what made it interesting then, of course, was to experience like the working culture there, right? And I think that was quite cool. And I sometimes still miss it, that the that co-workers in Ireland, they regularly go out together after work, like go to a pub and so on. And I really enjoyed this. The after work
culture. Yeah, it is like that. But I think I had that experience also in Germany, even though it's mainly because I was working with a lot of expats and and they have foreigners. And when you are working in this kind of companies, what it happens is that everyone is arriving there kind of alone. So if you don't do that with the people that you have around you, with who will you do it? Like, it's not that you're moving because of love or whatever. Like, the majority of the people who is there, it's as alone as you are. So grabbing a beer after work, it's, I don't know, might be the best way of socializing.
Yeah, but good point. I think it was very similar it was a very similar experience for me in Dublin as well, because due to also, as I said, due to all the big tech companies, and as it's there, I think some type of like European headquarter, they have a lot of people speaking different languages there, as they manage the different, you know, like countries out of Ireland. And that's why also a lot of like young people directly after university moved there as and started their first job, which was pretty cool for me, because then like the age difference between me being like an intern in like the beginning of my 20s was like, the age difference was super low to like my coworkers, because for them it was like their first or maybe second job after university. And then they were also interested in, as you just described it, getting to know each other, going out. And that was a very cool experience.
I mean, I think at that point of time, it's also really relevant that the city that you go, where you end, especially the beginning of the 20s, like when you're arriving too close to 30s, this dissolves a little bit and you don't give a shit anymore that much, let's say like this. But at the beginning of the 20s, being in a young city, like dynamic young city, it's much more relevant than later on. But at that point of time, you have the energy, and if your surrounding is killing this energy, it's you end frustrated about it because everyone is in another mood, and you are like there alone saying, oh, what the fuck I should do, like, and that's not healthy either, or that's what I saw in a lot of places. But yeah, Dublin has this vibe, and due to the tech companies and to the whatever, like they have a life, even though it's raining 80% of the time. It's a nice life, let's say like this.
So yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You spend there 6 months again, I suppose.
Again.
So that's 1 semester, 2 semesters. No, one semester. I'm super confused with the semesters all the time, like, because we go with my university went with 3 semesters, so it's 3 months only, like whatever, like I'm always confused with which one it's what, like whatever. And then coming back to Germany, you always do this, like going to a place, going back to Germany, and then to another. You never jump between countries, no?
Good point. That's actually like a thing I haven't done.
So you came back to Ireland.
Came back and then, yeah.
What year of university were you doing the internship in Dublin? Like,
that was during my bachelor's, so it was the 4th semester, so end of my, like the second part of the second year.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
And then you come back, you finish university, or it's Argentina part of the bachelor also?
Yeah, Argentina is also part of the bachelor. That was like the mandatory exchange semester.
So you double it, like you did they forced me to do 1 semester, but I will do 2. Oh, that's cool. That's nice.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you just came back, and then you decided to go to Argentina, like bouncing like a ball in between the wall. Why Argentina? There was something like a convenient thing within universities, or there was like did you choose, or it was chosen? What?
So first thing, as it was like the exchange semester, we would had to choose out of the partner universities. Right, so that, for example, there won't be any fees that you would have to pay us, and so on, and that in general, like the process would be quite easy, right? And then we received this rather long list of universities, and then there was like a ranking depending on like your grade, and then the person with like the best grade was like kind of allowed to choose first. Where he or she wanted to spend the exchange semester, and so on. And everybody was like allowed to, I think, have like, between 3 and 5 like favorite universities. Yeah, exactly. And for me, it was clear, due to the fact that I wanted to study Spanish again, and as I like South America so much, I wanted to like return to the continent. And then it was clear for me, okay, I would look out for these partner universities. And then like actually another criteria for me was to choose a rather small town. Yeah, because for example, we also had a partner university in Buenos Aires, which for me was super interesting. I wanted to get to know the city, but not like living there for a few months, because like my experience had been so far that when I was abroad in bigger cities, for example, Dublin, that we just talked about, in big cities, there are always like a lot of international people, which I enjoy a lot, but also most of the time you would speak English, right? Because that's usually the language that everybody knows. And my major reason was to study Spanish and to dive into the Argentinian culture. And that's why I really specifically chose a smaller city that I also had never heard of, similar to Reutlingen, just like deciding, okay, I haven't heard of it. Sounds quite nice. And hopefully it will make it easier for me to like get to know locals.
And to at the end like live more like a local life, and at the end speak Spanish.
Exactly.
Of course.
Exactly.
Where were you?
Yeah.
Now I'm curious.
I was in Rosario. Maybe you know
course.
the city.
Of course, Rosario.
Yeah, that's like messy city.
Exactly. Of course. I'm from Barcelona. What's this question? Gosh.
Of course, yeah.
But it's nice. I mean, at the end, did you come back speaking Argentinian Spanish?
Yes, a lot actually.
Yeah, of course.
I had quite a strong accent. Unfortunately, everything's gone again. But in the end, I was, of course, 6 months again in Argentina. And in the end, my Spanish was on quite a good level, I would say. And nice. I was able to speak with a lot of Argentinian words or like Argentinian, slang.
I mean, we are used to it. Cool. I think Barcelona has one of the biggest communities of Argentinian people. Well, I suppose Madrid, the big cities in Spain, generically, they have a lot of Argentinian, but in Barcelona, like a bit like cheer up to all the Argentinians in Barcelona, because you end learning all the slangs from Argentinian in Barcelona, because there is a lot of them and you just talk to them and everything, and they are so welcoming. And I don't know, I had a couple of times that they clearly catch your look like, fuck, I didn't understand anything of this sentence. And they are like, okay, like, boludo, this is the, how do we put this? No, like, this is the sentence. Yeah. This means, this is the same as in Spanish, whatever. But I think it's a really, again, going to South America to learn a language, I think it's a really good place to go at the end. I don't know about Rosario. I've never been, but at the end, Argentinian people are extremely welcoming, and they are
definitely.
They love talking. They love having long conversations. They have the patience of like, okay, if you don't understand something, they go through it, whatever. Like they take the time, and I suppose that also help to you to say like whatever, because there is places and places. But Rosario, how was the international community there? Like, were you really the only non-Argentinian in there, or there was more people around?
I mean, after all, Rosario has around 1 million inhabitants, right? So it's like not too small after all. And there were, of course, a few international people.
It's like Barcelona size.
Yeah, exactly, right? So after all, like exchange students, I think in total we were like, I think 6.
Okay, that's
so not a lot of exchange students. And also the university was quite small. And that made it, quite easy to meet Argentinians, which was super cool. And of course, Rosario is like not like one of the most famous places in Argentina, but from time to time, there are also like a few tourists, like international wise, right? But like what I found really interesting, most of them are also like the Argentinians that I met, they were super interested in like learning about different countries, different cultures, and studying English, like being super open-minded, and as you described it, like inviting you. And I mean, they love to celebrate as well, right? Having huge barbecues and so on. So they are really inviting, and that's why what I appreciated so much, and which made it such a nice experience, spending some time there and living there. Because what my experience is as well is, maybe you know it as well, when you are abroad and there's like a person speaking the same language that you speak, like naturally. It's always like you get in contact like so easily. And then I sometimes forget, oh, I'm here because I want to dive in this other culture, yes. Right? But that's like the most convenient way. I just say like, I don't know, with like the group of Germans. And that's like, especially like I really
Exchange
started to like
Erasmus.
exactly, you know, like I start to remind myself and be like, no, why are you here? Like you're interested and you want to get to know like the people and like the culture in that country, right? And so luckily that worked out.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I always say there is a balance in there. It's really, especially when you live abroad, like literally living, not going there for 6 months, to have a contact with local, like people from your own country. It's also a nice thing to have, like to go back to speaking your language wherever. But come on, if you go for 6 months, you can't survive without being surrounded by the people of your third country. Just go there. Come on, you're in fucking Rosario. Che Guevara was born there. Learn something. Messi was, even if you're just a football guy and not a revolutionary guy, learn something about the fucking city, you know, like, but there is people for everything, as always. But I totally agree. I mean, with these kind of things, I always try to also push or learn or try to meet the people who will be, even if it's not from your town, meet the internationals, meet the local people before getting into your ghetto of people of your own country and only speaking in your own language. Learn the things when you're in the other side of the world. Eat the food, get whatever, like get culture involved. And that's the beauty of it.
Totally.
Nice. I think we need to do the second short break. We still have a little bit to talk about Argentina, probably, like how it was. And then we have still 2 countries, with China being in there in the middle, which is a crazy big country. But we did a quick break now, and then maybe we tackle the remaining part. And then we close the episode. Sounds good?
Sounds great. Yes.
Cool. We are back again. We were just talking about Rosario and their vibe and mood of like being a city, like a big city, 1 million and something people, but still not being one of the most famous attractions of Argentina. Let's say like these were not the common touristic spot. But this being one of the reasons why you choose also to go there, to be more like in contact with the local people and to learn. So it was also semester abroad, as far as I understood.
Yes, exactly. 6 months again in total.
It's a now it's a rule that you need to have over there, like 6 months or 6 months. Did you have like, it was like a small university as far as I understood, like, but it has the same studies that you had in Germany? Like it was 100% collateral, like wherever you would learn in one to the other. Of course, that's why partners universities are, I suppose. How about the vibe of Rosario in Argentina? Because I suppose, I mean, you lived in other places, but it's much more different, the lifestyle in Argentina than in Germany. I don't know. How it is living there for 6 months.
I think the lifestyle is pretty different. For me, it was always so interesting to see, like, overall, you find some similarities. Like, for example, I gave that example earlier with like playing volleyball, like sports or music, and that this type of sport I did again in Argentina. So I also played volleyball from time to time, and also. Right now, I'm not so much in contact with any type of church anymore, but I found also that's so interesting because, as I said earlier, I grew up with like volunteering and like some church kids groups and so on. And that was also quite interesting for me to see. It's like an international community, like German, like, and it's like a similar religion, and that was quite interesting for me. But probably also because there's this connection that like a lot of Argentinians have like relatives from Europe at some point, right? Let it be from Spain or let it be from Italy and so on. And that also it might be stronger in Argentina, but also like, that you kind of value the time with your friends and family that you have. I think that's also like a major value that Argentinians have. And I mean, I basically knew that from back home as well, right? I mean, my family is very important to me and also my friends. So I would say overall, there are like a few similarities, but then like living them concretely, this is the point, I think, where it gets very different, right? So like, for example, like the daily schedule, I think it's common or quite known that Argentinians eat a lot of meat. You know, that they love
Yes.
that their barbecues. Asado.
Yeah.
Exactly. But then you earlier, before we started recording again, you asked me about like the usual dinner time in Germany. Right. And I mean, the usual dinner time in Argentina is around like 11 or even later.
Spanish time.
At night. Exactly.
At the end, we influenced them and more things that we wanted. Sorry about that. Fuck, we really did bad into that countries. Yeah.
And that's like definitely one thing. And then also, what I remember from Argentina is, of course, like this huge difference between like these cosmopolitan areas. Like Rosario is rather big. I mean, Buenos Aires is huge and beautiful, but quite European, I would say, like the architecture style and so on. And then like traveling to other parts in Argentina, which is a lot more rural and a lot more, like different, and really like the nature plays the major part there. And I think that is super interesting to experience these differences, right? With like the impressive nature on the one side, and then like these super beautiful cities on the other side, and with this different lifestyle.
Yeah, this is one of the things that I wanted to ask you, actually. Like, did you manage, because you said, okay, I wanted to visit Buenos Aires as one of the cities, and even though I didn't want to live in there, did you manage to travel around Argentina during that 6 months and checking the country? From your previous response, definitely you did. Did you manage to see Buenos Aires from inside and be there for some weeks or for some time?
Yes, I was in Buenos Aires a few times, because I was quite lucky that at the same time when I was in Rosario, two friends of mine from my university, they were doing their exchange semester in Buenos Aires. So we visited each other a few times, because Rosario is by bus, which is like the major
transportation
mode of transportation in Argentina, is around 4 hours. So that's quite fine.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's an advantage of doing an exchange semester in comparison to working abroad. You're quite flexible, right, with your schedule, because I think we had, at least 2 days free per week. So I basically always had like a long weekend.
That's nice, actually. I mean, I suppose that's the big difference between Ireland and Argentina. That Ireland, you have the 9 to 5, even if it's I don't know if it was totally. 9 to 5, whatever, but more like office schedule, whatever, and you need to live with the office life versus Argentina, where probably it's going abroad again, being student, which is the big difference. Like, really, guys who are listening to this, like, when you travel being a student, take advantage of that, because that freedom doesn't come back ever. Nice.
Totally. Yeah, in my mind, when you come to the differences between Argentina and Ireland, one thing that I almost forgot about Argentina is the huge inflation that they have, right? I now use, and basically you have to get organized by yourself with like your communities, with your family, where they have, as I described, like this really strong bond and are super close, because you cannot rely on the government. Okay. And that was so interesting for me to learn, that as you cannot rely on the government, right? So, which means, for example, with like the inflation, when I flew to Argentina, I never had that much money in my backpack. I think it was a few €1,000 for like the first month to live there, like paying my rent and everything, because it is a lot cheaper to bring euros to Argentina and then step by step convert them there in Argentinian peso, get the money over there.
Interesting. Definitely. I mean, there is like some kind of devaluation. No, I don't know if it's actually devaluation of the coin itself, but at the end, like you are bringing an amount that you think that from German standards you will survive 2 months, but then with that it's just like stretching the money progressively. I think it's just like I did it in Mexico also. Like you just arrive there and just, I mean, Mexico is pretty much more like the conversion. It's much higher than in Argentina, I think, the pesos. But at the end, it was also like worth it to, wait during the week to see what was the day that the currency was lower to be able to do the conversion at that point. Like, okay, now it's the moment. Like it's like nearly being an investment broker saying like, oh, this is the time I need to go there and invest, change my euros to that. Nice. Okay, what happened next? Like you finished this 6 months. Here we go again. We go back to Germany. China, it's outside of the studies, or it's you decided to do the third round of going abroad?
It was an experience after my bachelor studies. So in between bachelor and master. So maybe you see like a kind of
pattern over there.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm missing the word, but like pattern. Yeah,
a repetition.
So kind of, yeah. Not only the 6 months, but also basically the taking the opportunity to go abroad whenever I had the possibility, basically. And of course, I know of course, you need to kind of have the financial resources for it, right? I mean, for example, during my exchange semester, you get, some money that supports you from like the German government and so on. During the internship, I was earning money and so on. I don't think that it's like completely impossible to like finance it yourself, but of course you have to make it a priority, right? And like to save up some money to be able also, like, once you're in the country, to also like travel there, right? Because you don't want to like, I don't know, fly to Argentina and then you're like, okay, I can't afford to travel. I mean, that's also one of the reasons why you go there, right?
Definitely, of course. I mean, you don't go to the end of the world, like, or really far away from your homeland just to stay in a single town and say, okay, I arrive here, I spend 6 months here, and I go back without seeing anything, exactly. Of course.
Yeah. And so how did I end up in China? So basically, after finishing my bachelor's, I knew, okay, I want to take like a break. To be honest, like I never wanted to like take a break of like a complete year, because it was kind of it felt too long for me. Mm-hmm. Right now, I kind of like regretted that I didn't give myself more time, but at least luckily I did 6 months, so better a few months than nothing. But that's like basically the point why I mostly ended up with like doing 6 months. And so I knew I wanted to do like another internship abroad, basically combining the option to like gain work experience and like getting to know like a different country. Okay. And I was like super flexible where I wanted to go, because I was like, okay, I know some Spanish quite well, so why not like get to know like a different culture? And then I was like, okay, I was never in Asia, but in the end, it was more like a coincidence. It was like the internship offer that sounded like the most interesting, and that I also got. I mean, like I sent, I don't know how many applications I sent, 40, 50, I don't know. Which required a lot of time and effort, but that's how it is. And again, in China, I was in Hangzhou, which also is a city that I had never heard of before. Again,
a lot of patterns.
Yeah. Which is also like one thing that what I really learned from, like the experiences that I was able to gain, that let yourself enjoy the surprise.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, nowadays you can do so much research online and just check if it's like a kind of, like a nice city. Yeah, but after all, usually that's like the even better experience, going to a city, as I described earlier, or like a place to live where there are not so many internationals, right? I mean, everybody is different in the end, but still, like, if you want to really have like the local experience and so on, I think that's always like a great opportunity, right?
Definitely. I mean, at the end, also, like, from the majority of European perspective, 80% of the cities of not only China but Asia in general are unknown to to us. Like, it's not
Totally.
like so. Who cares? Like, you're going there for an internship. You know that you need to be somewhere. How many cities does the regular people who are not really into Chinese culture or has any relatives there or know people in Europe knows more than 5 cities in China? So, being the biggest country in the world in population wise. So, I don't know, just do it, like you're going somewhere. I mean, you of course need and have what you were talking about, the possibility of doing the research and checking out if it's the place that you want to be. And we have the over information sometimes right nowadays, but come on, you have the advantage to check it out and see if you want to go there or not. But probably majority of the times you will not know the city, so it's okay. So you ended, you throw all these 50 internships, whatever, knowing which area you wanted to go, or saying, okay, now I would like to be able to switch over there, which is cool because you're saying, okay, I've already been there, so I now let's bring it to the other side of the world. Like, say you were in New Zealand, but anyway, like, a completely different experience, I suppose. Which year are we talking about? Like, it's like after you finalize university, you said.
Yeah, I was in China in 2017.
Nice. In how was arriving to a city that you didn't know? How was, I mean, let's maybe put the perspective. You were going there to do exactly what you did in Ireland somehow, but in a complete different cultural shock, I suppose, because Ireland, we were talking about this multiculturality, this multi-international tech companies, etc., that everyone goes out for beers after work, whatever. How is China in that regards? How it was entering the work world in China?
It was a completely different experience because, like, working culture in China is so different from European working culture, I would say. So I made this example earlier from like this after work going for a beer with your colleagues, right? And in China, most people don't drink alcohol. Or, for example, where I was working after with like a German company. But they're like, the company would organize buses for the people or for the employees living like all over the huge city. And Hangzhou has around 10 million inhabitants, right? Which is huge. Yeah. I can come to that later on if you want as well. But so it was a completely different experience. So people would arrive with like company organized buses every day in the morning at the same time, then would also leave in the afternoon every day at the same time again. So it would be something very special, and when there would be like some type of dinner or so, something similar with your colleagues, because it was really like this very strict schedule every day. And it was also really common to have breakfast in the company.
Okay.
So it was offered like breakfast, and I think lunch is quite common, but like breakfast also.
Service, yeah.
And then what was also really different, of course, was like the type of communication, right? Maybe you heard it before, but saying no does not really happen in, I think, if I remember correctly, in Asian countries in general, but especially in China, like you would never really say no, as it's considered like impolite or considered like losing like your I think it's called face or something like that, right? In cultural terms. So they would always give you like a different type of explanation of trying to tell you that something will not happen, or that there is like a problem, or it won't be the way that you expected it to be.
Okay.
Right. And me being like from a country which is supposed to be, like on a cultural, from a cultural perspective, being quite direct as a German,
yes.
That was really like a learning experience, trying to figure out ways how to communicate with the Chinese, right?
To say no without saying no directly, but rather saying, oh, have you considered that this might go in that direction? No, yeah, of course.
Exactly. Or like even in the first place, even understanding that your Chinese colleague is telling you somehow, no, it's not working,
Of course. Oh, that's curious. Yeah. That's very nice. I mean, I remember when I was in India because of work, with buses, it's the same. I was in Bangalore, so they have it. The city, it's so big that they need to provide some kind of transportation. The public transportation, it doesn't cover enough. And if you grab your own car, you never arrive. So they provide like transports from the company, and therefore they arrive before breakfast. Therefore, they provide the breakfast service in the company. I remember that also in there. Which makes sense. I mean, at the end, if you live in a 10 million city, I mean, Athens is half of that if you count the non-registered people in this city. And it's enormous. It's already like crazy. 10 million people living in a city. It's just like, I don't know. If I take Catalonia as itself, that's 7 million. There is 3 million in there that you need to take from somewhere else. How is life in these kind of cities? Like, do you end living in your streets, your neighborhood, your whatever, and then just like closing yourself into a certain part of the city without discovering anything else because it's literally impossible to arrive there? How do you live in this?
I think first of all, like you can never stop like exploring the city. I don't know how many like different types of like small city centers they have, right? Because for example, during the week where I mostly stayed like in the area where I was living, but you would never have to leave like already this type of huge area, right? Because there was everything that you would need. Think of how many like huge buildings and so on, parks and so on. They would have. It was crazy. And of course there was like some like highlights or like the biggest in the city centers, as the city is considered as quite beautiful due to this huge lake. But yeah, you can never stop exploring. And then also, as there are so many people, you basically, once you're outside of your apartment, you never spend time alone, right? Especially during holidays. As I was working again, you want to use like the holidays that you have, right? And Chinese people, they don't have too many vacation days. I don't remember the exact amount, but then everybody is traveling on the same days. And maybe you've seen it on TV before. It's crazy what happens on these days when you go to the train station, for example. And I really remember how in my impression, the Chinese are used to these huge amount of groups, or like the trains being like super full. And for me, it really was a new experience because, for example, everybody was then like using their smartphone, watching like some videos while traveling in the train, for example, to Shanghai, which is not too far away. And nobody would use headsets. And it was so confusing for me because it was like super loud and everybody would like watch their own video, right? And was like a mess. But I don't know if it like if they are just used to it or they don't get disturbed by it. It was a new experience for me.
Get the May Carter now in Germany, and you have the same now, I suppose. For a month, 9 euros ticket for traveling all over Europe, all over Germany, and you have the same amount of crowded trains. Was it easy though? Like, it is a big city. Do they really like in city? Because if I right now compare it to Athens, for example, one of the biggest problem here is that yes, the city is big, but the public transportation is not covering properly the city in that sense. So there is a lot of neighborhoods that are pretty unconnected if you don't have a private transportation method. Was it like the same in there, like, or you were really able to arrive everywhere with public transport?
In that sense, I really have to say that when I was there in 2017, China was already at that point super modern. So especially like in the big cities that I visited, and especially for Hangzhou, very new modern public transport at that time. Also, what we used a lot, the shared bikes. I was using a lot.
Nice.
A lot of trains, really modern trains. Of course, they at that time when I was there, they wouldn't go to like any part of the city, but like to the major points, yes. And very modern and reliable and like really high quality, I remember. And in general, yeah, China was so modern. Like I still remember the even like the person selling like some stuff, I don't know, fruits or vegetables on the street, they would only have like a QR code and you would just like pay without any cash.
For Germany, that's a no-go. You don't have an AC card? Oh, wow. Incredible. I mean, I suppose there is a really big gap of cultural things. So they understand things differently, and they're technologically wise. There is things that has evolved in a completely different way than Europe and other places in the world. And we don't understand that. Like, we really don't get certain things, and they happen. They just like are 3 steps away from other countries in certain things. And there is other stuff that they may be like a little bit behind and front, whatever. Like but it's really interesting to see this kind of combination of things. No, like for us in Europe, going and watching your video in a train, even if you're fucking alone in there, you put your headsets on. It's just cultural that you don't, I don't know, watch a YouTube video, even though there is people doing it. Unfortunately, I think we're running quite out of time. So maybe
that's totally fine.
I would like try to grab Netherlands like quickly over there, and just like if you could just say what happened, like I suppose like China. I would really, I mean, I could be hours talking about China. So probably I will contact you again for another episode at some point, and we can get deep into that. But maybe just to close this episode a little bit and make it round. Did you came back to after the 6 months as it's an internship, then you start master, as far as I understood. When did Netherlands happen? How did you end there? How long? A little bit like a resume for probably a next episode if you're up to for the next season.
That sounds great. To make it really short, I did my master's in the Netherlands. So that time I didn't only spend 6 months there, but even like a year that time. And that's how I ended up in the Netherlands. Yeah, because I was specifically looking for master programs being outside of Germany. And of course, also a country where like the tuition fees are not so high and the education system is on quite a high standard. And that's I ended up studying my master's in the Netherlands.
Nice. I would like to propose you, like, I have this season kind of closed right now, and I'm still dealing with the idea if I will do the same format next year in the sense of that. But I would really like to dig into countries specifically, probably next season. It's maybe an advance that I shouldn't be saying too much right now. But I would probably like to contact you for next season if it's okay for you, and we have another conversation about China. I really want to go deep into specific countries instead of trying to do the whole thingy. So I propose you that as a
that sounds great. I'm definitely in.
The last two questions that I ask everyone, I think we talked about it before, would be, first one, it's a recommendation that you give to anyone in a generic way, in a specific, say, or New Zealand, you need to go there. It doesn't really matter, whatever you want.
Three recommendations. I think I would like to stay quite general, because choosing a country, I think, is really something very personal. I think one thing is that I mentioned before, like, try to be open-minded to places that you don't know about. As I said earlier, I had never heard of Rosario. Even in Germany, I had never heard of Reutling before, and it was one of the best times that I had. So really try to be open-minded and just do some research and try it out. I mean, what's the worst thing that can happen? You can always come back, right? So yes. that would definitely be the first thing. And I think what goes hand in hand with that is really try to meet the locals. I know, especially when not knowing the language is really difficult, but at least with like some English, it's, I think, always possible to meet a few. And I think that's like the best memories that I have. Yeah. The last one, I think it also goes hand in hand, like try things out. For example, in China, I didn't know the menu because I couldn't read it. It was all in Chinese signs, and I don't know Chinese. And I would just like say, okay, took my finger and show in this, and you don't know what's going to happen, but it can end up, very great. And if not, then you just try it the next time, something else. So just try it out.
Don't do that if you have intolerance to food, but besides that, go for it.
Good point.
The last question that I always ask, do you want to use the platform, the episode, to promote anything for yourself or friends? I don't know, friends of friends, anything that you would like to say here. You need to check this out.
Really, like, I don't have like anything in specifically at the moment.
Totally fine.
The only thing that comes to my mind, as we are talking about it earlier, if anyone who listens to the episode is interested in exchanging experience, like working abroad for like a real type of position, or like working 100% remote, I would be super interested in that type of exchange.
Sure. Let's put it like, you will have probably social media, whatever. So if you want to get in contact with Kristin about remote working, let's do it. Thank you so much for taking the time today to talk to me. And it was a real nice conversation. I think I really, really like feel bad because time restrained, whatever, of the episode. But I think there is still a pending conversation around China, around Netherlands, probably. But I really like to talk about specific countries at some point. So it's there. Again, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot to you, Mark. It was a lot of fun.